The galaxy had always been a place of chaos, a dance of empires and rebellions, and I had never expected to become the center of one. I was just a human soldier, part of a small contingent exploring the neutral zone near the Andromeda expanse. Our mission was simple: scout, gather intel, and avoid confrontation. That was until the ship's sensors picked up a strange energy signature, a signal unlike anything we had ever encountered. It pulsed with life and authority, resonating through the vacuum of space like a heartbeat. The coordinates led us to an uncharted planet, its surface bathed in violet light, cities of crystal stretching into the sky. It was majestic, alien, and clearly the domain of a powerful ruler. We landed, cautious but curious. The air shimmered with energy, and I felt eyes on me even before I saw her, a tall, graceful figure stepping from the grand palace gates. Her armor was elegant, almost ceremonial, yet every detail spoke of lethal capability. Her eyes, glowing faintly in a violet hue, locked onto me instantly. "Who is this human?" A voice echoed through the plaza, commanding and regal. It was her, the alien queen herself. She did not move closer, but her gaze pierced me like a laser. "Why has he come here?" I stepped forward, hands raised slightly in peace. "I mean no harm. I am an explorer from Earth. My name is Lieutenant Kale." The queen's expression softened just slightly, though her eyes never wavered from mine. "Kale the human. Very well. Follow me. But beware, one wrong move, and you will regret it." I followed, unsure whether I was being escorted or marched to execution. Meeting her, and the moment of declaration. Inside the palace, I was struck by its grandeur. Floating platforms, bioluminescent walls, and intricate alien architecture made it clear this was a seat of immense power. But it wasn't the palace that caught my attention. It was her daughter. A young girl, no older than 10 by human standards, stood trembling behind her mother. Her eyes widened as she looked at me, a mixture of fear and curiosity. And then, without warning, she bolted from her mother's side, running straight toward me. I instinctively crouched and caught her in my arms. "Kale," the queen said softly, almost as if speaking to herself, "protect her at all costs." I glanced at her, puzzled. I will. But why me? She didn't answer directly. Instead, she watched us silently, her eyes full of something I couldn't read: trust, fear, or perhaps recognition. Days passed. I stayed in the palace, helping guard the young princess from unseen threats. Rumors spread that the human had somehow earned the favor of the queen's child, and whispers echoed through the halls. Why does the human stay? Then the moment arrived. The palace was filled with ambassadors, leaders, and warriors from every corner of the galaxy. The queen called us all into the central hall, a chamber so vast it seemed to swallow the light. I stood at attention, unsure why I was summoned. The young princess, eyes sparkling with determination, stepped forward. And then she did something no one could have anticipated. She pointed directly at me. "He is mine," she declared, her voice clear, commanding, and echoing through the hall. The room froze. Silence. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Every ambassador, every soldier, every courtier turned to look at me, their expressions a mixture of shock, confusion, and awe. I blinked, unsure how to respond. The queen's eyes softened as she looked at me. "It seems," she said, her voice like silk and steel combined, "that the human has earned her trust. And perhaps more. Conflict, political turmoil." Word spread quickly. Factions within the galaxy saw my connection to the princess as a threat to their ambitions. Some attempted covert attacks, while others tried to sway the queen against me. I trained tirelessly alongside the palace guards, learning alien combat techniques and diplomacy. The princess would occasionally appear during drills, watching me with admiration and trust. Each day, the bond grew stronger, and I realized it was no longer just about saving her. It was about protecting a future that depended on the fragile alliance between her family and humanity. One night, an attack came. A coalition of rogue star systems infiltrated the palace. Lasers cut through the halls, and shadowy figures tried to seize the princess. I fought my way through the corridors, finally reaching her just as a warrior aimed at her. I threw myself in front of her, taking the hit and blocking the attack. She screamed and clung to me, her tiny hands gripping my armor. The queen arrived moments later, decimating the remaining intruders with a display of power that left even seasoned soldiers in awe. She turned to the princess, who clung to me tightly. "You see," she said softly, "he is worthy of your trust." Climax, declaration to the galaxy. The next day, the queen called for a galactic assembly. Delegates from hundreds of systems had gathered. I stood beside the princess, ready for whatever political maneuvering or ceremonial display awaited. The queen addressed the assembly. "This human," she said, gesturing toward me, "has proven his loyalty, bravery, and honor. He is the guardian of my daughter, and by extension, the protector of this line and its future." The princess stepped forward once more, looking at me with unwavering trust. "He is mine," she repeated, louder and with undeniable authority. Gasps echoed throughout the assembly. Some tried to object, but the queen's presence silenced them immediately. "Let it be known," she declared, "that this human is recognized by the heir of this empire. Those who oppose him oppose me, and the consequences will be severe." The room erupted into cautious applause, some out of respect, others out of fear. I stood there, stunned, as the princess smiled at me, a tiny hand slipping into mine. Ending, the reward and new beginning. In the weeks that followed, my life changed forever. I was granted residence in the palace, trained in diplomacy, combat, and alien strategy. The princess never left my side, and together, we explored the galaxy, building alliances and preventing conflicts that could have destroyed entire star systems. The queen, my initial skeptic, became a mentor, guiding me through the intricacies of her empire. She would occasionally smile, remembering the day her daughter pointed at me and declared, "He is mine." That moment had frozen the galaxy, but it had also begun a new era. One evening, overlooking the palace gardens under twin moons, the princess whispered, "Thank you for protecting me." I smiled, gripping her small hand. "I promise I always will." The galaxy, once vast and hostile, now felt like home. And as I looked toward the stars, I knew that no matter the challenge, we would face it together. The end. After the Queen's declaration in the Galactic Assembly, life in the palace changed entirely. I was no longer just a human visitor or a soldier from Earth. I was recognized as a protector, a trusted ally of the royal family, and the guardian of the princess. Delegates from across the galaxy whispered about me in awe and disbelief, unsure whether this human could truly deserve such trust. But the princess didn't hesitate. Her tiny hand in mine reminded everyone that loyalty and courage weren't determined by species. They were determined by heart. The following weeks were a whirlwind. I trained alongside the palace guards, learning advanced alien combat techniques and tactical maneuvers that even seasoned warriors respected. The princess insisted on joining me during drills, observing quietly but attentively. Sometimes she would reach out and place her hand on my arm, a silent gesture of encouragement that left me unsettled with warmth. Each day, our bond grew stronger, and the palace, once intimidating and formal, felt more like home than I had ever imagined. Political tensions were never far behind. Certain factions across the galaxy resented a human being elevated in such a position of power. Covert plots were discovered, attempts to discredit me, sabotage my reputation, or even stage an attack on the palace. But the Queen remained a constant guide, advising me on diplomacy, strategy, and how to navigate these treacherous waters. Her authority was absolute, and her interventions were swift and decisive. One night, under the twin moons that bathed the palace gardens in silver light, the princess tugged at my sleeve. "Kale," she whispered, "what if they try to take me away again?" Her eyes, wide and innocent, reflected both fear and trust. I crouched down to her level, gripping her small hands. "No one will ever take you from me," I promised. "I will face the galaxy if I have to, but you'll always be safe." She smiled softly, leaning into me. That promise was tested sooner than expected. A coalition of rogue star systems, jealous of the humans' position and the princess's loyalty, launched a daring assault on the palace. Lasers streaked across the night sky, alarms blared, and the entire palace was thrown into chaos. I raced through corridors filled with smoke and debris, reaching the princess just as a cloaked warrior aimed a weapon at her. Without hesitation, I dove between them, taking the brunt of the attack. Pain surged through me, but all that mattered was the little girl clinging to my chest. Her soft sobs and trembling hands reminded me why I could never fail. The Queen arrived in a blaze of light and power, effortlessly dispatching the attackers with a display that silenced even the most hardened soldiers. She turned to me afterward, a rare, approving smile on her lips. "You have done what few could," she said, her voice carrying both pride and respect. "You are worthy of the princess's trust and of the Empire's confidence." In the aftermath, the princess would not let go of me. She insisted I accompany her on every official journey, every ceremonial event, and even on leisure walks across the palace gardens. Slowly, the whispers of doubt and suspicion faded. Allies were won over not by force, but by witnessing the unbreakable bond between a human and the princess. I became both a symbol and a protector, a bridge between Earth and the most powerful alien empire in this part of the galaxy. Months later, during a gala celebrating the peace treaty with neighboring star systems, the princess, now standing taller and more confident, approached me in front of the assembly. She looked into my eyes and whispered, "You saved me and you belong to us now, Kale." My chest tightened with emotion. For the first time in my life, I felt the full weight and honor of being someone's chosen protector, not just a soldier, not just a human, but a part of something far greater than myself. The Queen watched us, her face unreadable at first, then softened into something almost tender. She raised her hand, addressing the crowd. "Let this be known across the galaxy. Loyalty, bravery, and honor are not measured by birth or species. And those who earn trust, as this human has, will always have a place in this empire." From that day forward, the palace became a center of hope, diplomacy, and unity. I trained, explored, and defended the empire alongside the princess, who trusted me completely. Together, we navigated political intrigue, staved off attacks from rogue factions, and even brokered alliances that had seemed impossible. But more than that, we shared quiet moments, watching twin suns set over alien landscapes, laughing softly in the palace gardens, and understanding one another in ways words could never convey. And each time I saw her, standing tall, glowing with youthful determination, and looking at me with unwavering trust, I knew that this bond, the one forged in a moment of vulnerability, courage and declaration was unbreakable. The galaxy had frozen that day she pointed at me, but in that silence, a new era had begun, one of courage, loyalty, and a human proving that even the smallest of species could change the fate of an empire.
The end.